Our keynote speaker is in IT and fintech industry for the past quarter of century. Last 14 years, he overlooks the company with over 3,000 employees in 23 countries. He will speak about the importance of AI-powered solutions in taking business results to the next level. May I welcome Mr. Piotr Jelenski, President of the Management Board of Asseco Southeastern Europe. Please take the stage.
Good morning, everybody. I don't like it too formal, and these titles are a bit depressing for me because it makes me realize that I'm getting older. But first of all, I would not take too much of your time. I would like to share some opinions from practice, from real life, from daily life, how I look at AI and how I look at the trends that are happening and how can they be applied, but also how they can be misused. And let's start with an example. We have COVID times, yes? Everybody is stressed about it. Everybody thinks what will follow. But look at the vaccination rates in different places, including quite educated societies. I spoke to some doctors and they said, look, Piotr, never in the history has any vaccine been tested so thoroughly as COVID. Never sample of people on whom it has been tested has been such huge. It's not even a sample. We are talking billions now, yes? Never so much money was poured into it to follow up. And never it brought so much controversy, any vaccine, and so much doubts and opposition as today. So what about data? How does it work? How does it affect us? Does it work? Does it help us? I mean, this is a practical example that data, science, AI doesn't solve and will not solve everything. But it can help. But if we don't want to use it, we will not use it. And we are living in such a society, human society, not today's society, from millennia to millennia, it's not changing, where things are either used or not used. Good things are done or bad things are done. And I am afraid this will not change. But we should, as the beginning of the conference and opening, we should keep on trying, and you as very smart people should keep on pushing to make the logic, the merit and common sense, and ethics, of course, to push through and to make things better around us. Good, that was just an example. Let's see if this works. AI in business now. This is just few data on the scale of AI already today. Yes, data collection that 85% of the enterprises are using artificial intelligence. I'm pretty doubtful about it, honestly, yes, because it became so hype that everybody wants to show off that they are using AI. But it was like I spoke once to a company implementing, pretty privately, implementing agile methodology in project management and managing projects. And the owner of this company told me, Piotr, we are doing these projects with different big enterprises, but none of them understand it and none of them will use it, yes, in a near future. And I'm afraid with AI, we are just in the beginning, at the tip of the iceberg, yes? So artificial intelligence is today a word that we are using, but we are just touching the beginning. But independence of the algorithm, independence and self-learning mechanism are just, we are in the tip of the iceberg, yes? Just beginning to touch it. Still, it's a trend that will not stop. And this statistics is showing it's not only hype, but it's massive, which means more and more money will be flowing into it. More and more investment will be going there. There will be more and more work opportunities for students, and enterprises will be putting more focus onto this, yes? It's estimated that the AI market will be 500 billion. These are true numbers, but the world is so big, it's so huge that out of this 500 billion, how much is US, how much is China? Yes, it will probably consummate, and India will consummate 3/4 of this number. Still huge money, even for countries like Serbia, for regions like Southeastern Europe, yes? Data. Data was always around us, and with data, I think we are more and more aware about the data, that it has value. Next slide shows that Google, Salesforce, all the big names are using AI, are applying AI, but they've started with some business models of their own, like search engine, Google, and then they realized that they are collecting huge amounts of data on the behavior of their users. And they haven't been using it in the beginning. They haven't been doing anything with it, yes? But then over time, they said, this is huge value. And before, including Facebook, before they started to economize it, monetize it, they were just collecting and thinking how to use it. They were changing management boards. They were changing managing directors to change the way of management to monetize something different, not the engine itself, to monetize the data they are using, to enter the world, the virtual world of how to use it. But how to use it is a huge challenge, which many of us fail. Why? Look at our lives. We very often are disappointed. We very often make mistakes. And if you look at life should be a simple thing, and how often people are unhappy, how often they are not satisfied. Most of you are young, so this is still ahead of you, but the frustration comes over time. The need to have more, the willingness to get somewhere else. And the data how to live is available. That's pretty common sense. And still, applying it in practice is so complicated. So using the data, applying it is not a full solution of the problem, but we should try and follow some patterns. So two and a half quintillion is I think 5, like billion, trillion, and so on, quintillion. It's hard to imagine number, but this is the amount of bytes that is being created on a daily basis. Of course, most of it is left alone. And with this data that we are collecting, we are touching another point I will not talk about, is called privacy. I'm sure many of you are aware that depending on the culture, today European Union is addressing it more thoroughly, but still it's in the beginning of the page, how to protect individuals from being abused of following their patterns, yes? How to not allow corporations to impact our lives without us knowing it. It's happening anyhow, but still, it's a topic, it's a theme that's being addressed, yes? 90% of the data has been created in the last 2 years alone. That's absolutely not true statement, I must correct it. Has been collected, not created, because we create data all the time. It's just, it has been measured, collected, and, but maybe partially true, because if we talk about digital photos, we make more pictures with our devices today than we used to with professional photo cameras, yes? So maybe that's a form of creation as well. We mentioned this one, so many are using it, many are trying to use it, but why? Now, the key question that I think is needed to answer, and we would ask our customer, yes? Sorry, I didn't introduce. ThinkSolver is a company part of the ASEE, Asseco group, yes, and we are very happy to grow this business with them, yes? But are we ready? What do we talk to the customers today? And I think that's not only for AI business, that's for any business, but this is a big challenge, is are you ready? And that's for sure a very fair question and a very difficult question to ask, because you don't want to discourage the customer or your partner, yes? But before we talk about AI, the first question is, do you know what you want to achieve? Do you know what is your objective, business objective? Do you know where you want to get? Because sometimes we are pushing a solution. We are selling a car to somebody who doesn't want to drive anywhere. Why? We are saying, go hiking in the mountains, but the person hates hiking, yes? So we cannot push things that are not a priority because they will not work, yes? Second issue with the objectives is that very often today, especially in our region, the businesses are not fully utilizing the potential of pretty simple business tools and optimizations to improve the business that are just in front of them, that are tested a long time ago. And applying more advanced tools will just add additional chaos on what they are doing today. Anyhow, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't talk about this and they shouldn't try tapping onto this market. But the objective question is the key. So to see if there is a team, if there is people, if there is management committed to achieve a certain task, and will they be happy, will it be their success if they achieve this task where AI tool can help, yes? So are the KPIs defined? Are they precise, yes? Then, when we talk about AI, usually we have to talk about data. Are we capable to collect data? Do we know where our data is? Can we measure it? And can we store it safely? That's another principle that is pretty obvious, but it's not obvious for the enterprises, yes? Is the customer base well defined? Because we are collecting data, but whom are we addressing among the segmentation of our customers? How and whom we want to address, yes? And do we have proper scale? Because as we said, Google, yes, first they grown, Facebook grown and built scale. For them, number one was number of users, number one KPI. As many users as possible. Only then, when they were big, very big, they said, let's monetize. Because they knew it will be a good return on investment. Feel free to ask me questions, by the way, if you wish, anytime. So, business first. AI supports the business, but the business priorities is, I'm not talking about AI companies like ThinkSolver, but I'm talking about other businesses whom we all and many of you try to help, should focus on their business. And AI is a tool to facilitate, to help, to monetize more things in the business people do. And summarizing, people who are doing this business have to know their priorities, know their objectives, and then you can talk how to apply AI tools to make it work. And it has to be client-friendly, and it has to ensure a KPI, return on investment. Yes. So the key thing very often that I see, and it's not only AI-related, when I talk about any project with different managers in different regions and places, you say, this is great, let's do it. And it sounds great, but what's the benefit? And you hear the benefit, and you try to do something, for many disgusting, I would say, put it in a table. Or put it in some structure, and then it says, oh, you're too mathematical, you're too structured, you have to have a vision. But without bullets, without a table, without a KPI, nothing works. You don't know whether you got there, yes? So this return on investment without this cannot be measured. It's about objectives and where we want to get, yes? And sometimes, we should say, no, it's too early. We shouldn't do it. Let's do it in a year, in 2 years' time. Or let's apply this, what we want, in a different area, in a different technology. That's pretty much summary of what we are talking about, but probably the strange faces on the top of the slide, clarity, not complex tech jargon. We have many of people engaged here in creating AI technologies, and I'm not an IT guy, I must confess. And I'm running an IT company, yes? And in the beginning it was tough, I would say, because I had a complex. I had an inferiority complex. I thought, hey, you don't understand what these smart people are telling you. And I didn't, and I still don't, many of the things. But the point is, what I learned over time is that if somebody is really good in what he's doing and he really understands, you can explain it to anybody in simple words. You can. You met probably a lot of very smart professors, even at your universities or elsewhere, yes, who, if they're good, they talk to anybody about what they do. And ability to talk to friends, but also the customer, about what we are doing, what we want to achieve, is art. It's art. You have to practice throughout your life, and it never stops. You never reach perfection. But simplicity is one of the keys to success. So that I would like to very much emphasize. Measurability, we mentioned. Focus on business is a priority. It's in the middle. Sustainable introduction of complexity is related to the one above. And you know what? We cannot forget about something which is very fashionable, transparency and ethics, yes? Why? I don't want to answer the discussion whether business is ethical or not. It's a pretty complex and long one. But usage of private data from both legal perspective and ethical perspective is a big challenge, yes? So to be aware, to make aware what we are tapping on and what we are using and how we are using it, it's an issue that has to be addressed. Now look, a bit about us. So far, this is practical data for ThinkSolver, what we have achieved with our customers. In many cases, it was 3 times return on investment, yes, from money invested by the customer in measurable revenues, return, profits, yes. Conversion increase of 35% year on year, thanks to using our tools. And you know some of this data, it happens, yes? But if we don't have this data, if this is too general, it means project was not that successful. So we are not saying every project is like this, but we try majority of the projects to be like that, yes? And how do I see the future of this in our region? I see very optimistically, but what worries me, and we are entering into a world of huge challenges for emerging markets, where this region for sure is part of the emerging market, is where developed economies can access and tap on talents remotely easier and easier, like never before. Which means some of the biggest brains are working remotely for other economies. And there's nothing wrong with it, by the way, it's natural, it's human. It's good they don't have to leave the country. It's actually excellent. On the other hand, it's more and more difficult for the local businesses to tap on these talents. Now, let me diverge a bit to the human aspect from the AI aspect to finalize this conference, but out of 3,000 people in ASEE Group, yes, ASEE Group, 3,000 people in above 20 countries, and the company is listed on Polish Warsaw Stock Exchange. It's originally from Poland. How many Polish people work for the group? Anybody wants to take a guess? Out of 3,000? 500. Any other guess? Just throw it, don't be afraid. There's no penalty for that. Okay, it's less than that. Out of 3,000 people, we have a very small Polish operations working in Poland, so I'm excluding this, yes? Excluding this 15 people working for the Polish operation, but people working for the group, within the group, there's about 16 people, 1/6, out of 3,000. And how many Polish managers we have working in different countries, in the boards, as managers in these 20 countries? Zero. Yeah, zero. And you know why? Because we strongly believe that in a truly international company, you build pride, dignity, talent, excellence by mixing people. We mix people internationally, yes. But by tapping on the talents which are on the market, and they're always there. Always there. And we get them, and that's, I believe, one of the success factors of our company. And that's why ThinkSolver, when we acquired it, had 20 plus people, 25 people. Today we are approaching 40. I wanted to reach 50, yes. And next year we'll see if we'll have a challenge to have 100 people, all in the region. We are not employing only in Serbia, now in the region. Now we are talking in Turkey about one company, to grow and build a very, very big AI expertise in the region, not only for the region, but in this region. Yes? And to create satisfaction of pride of not doing smart things, but creating true value added that stays here, stays in this place, and can be shared with the experience that will also stay here. And thank you for this, and have a great conference.
Shall we ask a few questions?
Yeah, if you want to ask me a few questions, go.
Yes, we can. I can help you with a few questions. I can start with
any
one.
questions. I like difficult ones. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, you started with asking people to make to guess how many Polish people are working at the company. So may I ask you, what would you say? How much data did I create since this morning? What would be your assessment?
In bytes?
I believe in megabytes. I'm not creating bytes anymore.
I need Darko help.
No, but just generally, and it was an ordinary morning.
Well, I would say if it's a single person, for sure you have created a lot of data that was prepared that you passed, but if you would collect the reactions of the audience, this would be already immense, huge, if we would collect the feedback.
So let's say each of us is creating probably by noon a couple of megabytes of data with just doing nothing, surfing internet, sending a few mails. I mean, if you take a selfie, that's, you're passing that limit. So is it possible, you said that you don't have to use data. Is it possible to live without creating data at all? I mean, where would I need to go in order to escape from creating any data?
Well, I think we are creating data anyhow, no matter what we do and where we pass. But I think you're touching a privacy issue. That's kind of my...
No, not at all. I mean, let's keep the privacy issue aside. Let's say just, I'm not...
It's not possible.
So, I mean, living in the forest maybe, or even not.
Because it depends how we define data. Is data something that is measured and stored? Because then we can say, yes, we can imagine a situation where nobody measures it and it's nowhere stored, even though it's always stored in our head, which can be later taken out of our head one way or the other, yes? So if we take ourselves out of the picture and for some third party storing the data, there are still places where we can imagine or feel we are not generating data that can be storable, yes? So, but it's always stored in our heads.
Yeah, where I'm heading is, I believe, and that will be a part of our next keynote interview, even when I put on the light, in the future, even presently, I'm creating some data. Somebody is getting information that more electricity is being used. So, if I'm already creating all that data, what is it good for me if I'm not taking anything from it, if I'm not taking any kind of analytics from it, if I'm saying I don't care about data?
What's good for you?
Yeah. I mean, for those people who say, I don't want to have anything with data.
Well, I would say it depends on a personal objective, yes? I'm not judgmental to people who say we want to live a simple life, not use television, internet, cell phones and anything. I don't know if there's many of these guys anymore in the world, but I have huge respect over people like that, yes? And there are people who are data obsessed. I mean, they try to measure everything and they forget about their daily life because they are following the data they collect instead of what they are doing, actually. So I think there is no, I think we should use it, but we cannot be consummated by it. But we cannot be obsessed by it, yes?
No, not obsessed. I was just wondering if I'm already creating it a lot and everybody's creating it. I mean, should I say I need to find a way, how am I going to consume that data in order to make my life better or whatever, not to ignore it?
I think yes, you should. But I think a good example is that we are given by some of the smartphones devices. They give us weekly reports automatically of how much are you using the smartphone. And I think this is a data most of us get, how much we are on the screen. And this speaks a lot to all of us. Are we run by the screen or we are running ourselves, what we do? And this is hit at us, this data, and nobody takes advantage of it, yes? And I think a very negative effect for the society overall, but this data can be used, people are not using it.
So what would you advise them? To use it or what?
Set your objectives, live the life, and be independent, yes? But don't allow anything. I think being independent always has been difficult, and over time it will be more and more difficult because we'll less and less realize how we are impacted by the world around us.
Anybody wants to ask the question, have I made anybody more interested? I mean, one of the questions I would definitely like to ask you, say that you are thinking of spreading, taking more people and whatever. So what are the hottest employees you're looking for?
Well, we are looking, that's a tough question. For sure,
of course, you're the head. I mean.
For sure, we are looking for some technical skills, data management skills, yes, way of thinking, patterns, and this region is very rich with such people, so that's good. But except for this, what we are looking for, which is difficult to get, is people who have passion and want to be connected to a more long-term vision, yes? Because we believe we can give, as a group, as a company, a long-term path of development, not only for half a year, interesting job for a year, not a project, but a way of getting to some freedom, awareness, entrepreneurship, I would say even, to an individual over a period of 5 years or more, yes? And people that are willing to jump into such a pool, that's the best.
So not necessarily technical people.
Well, majority is technical, I must say, but not only.
Yeah. We have a question there.
Please.
Hello. So after all this talk, very interesting, and thank you for that. So how are you managing new Z generation, since so many young people today here with us? So how you think we will manage, the companies will manage new generations?
Oh, it's a difficult one. You know, I just read an article that except for the fastest growing salaries are growing in the IT sector, one of the fastest in the region and globally. I just read that surprisingly a huge demand now on the market is for HR expertise. And why is that? Because the rotation of people is dramatically increasing, of employees. Loyalty of people is dramatically decreasing, yes. Let me just give you an example which will be close to many of you. I spoke to a friend of my son and he says, I'm changing job. I say, why are you changing job? Because now I have a boring project. But, but you had an interesting one a second ago. Yes, but now it's boring. And I said, but you'll have an interesting next one. Well, I don't want to wait. And you know, that's unthinkable, you know, for people like me. I mean, everything is thinkable, yes, but how we are managing to answer you, I'm pushing myself, and I'm spending like probably 50% of my personal time on HR issues, yes, on people issues, on talking about motivation, recruitment. I'm trying to talk to as many people in the company. I would say out of 3,000 people, I believe I know 500, at least visually. Trying to touch base, to chat with them on the corridors somewhere, and pushing others to do the same, and to, very challenging today with COVID, with remote work. You know, we have departures because of communication, or because of lack of communication. And what we see is that youngsters are saying, we want to go remote, we love it, and then after half a year they leave because they complain on the communication of being not good enough. And they are not aware about the power of personal impact, yes? Like now I sit with you and look, I say the power of personal impact. Everybody looks at me. Do you think on the screen, on the television, you'd look at me like that? No. Do you think now what's happening between us is virtually possible? No. I'm putting a spell on you. It doesn't work remotely. And that's the point. That's the point in management. That's the answer to your question. And if we cannot undermine such issues, and artificial intelligence is stone age to the things I'm talking about, it doesn't know how to address this. Because we are talking about senses which are measured. Visual, voice, smell is not digitalized at all. And there's many other senses which are not described. And today, trying to measure, we are limiting to the things that are easily measurable. We are not touching the domains which are not measurable. And less people will be aware about it, and that means less and less people will control us, because those that will know how to do it. And those that don't will not be even aware that they are being controlled. That's how I see the future. Pretty sad.
Is anyone ignited by this to ask another question? There must be. I mean, we can't be that boring.
No.
As those projects. Here's the question.
I'm not surprised, actually. Usually it's like this on the conferences.
Thanks. Hi. So your talk was really interesting, and thank you for that. As you're heading one of the biggest services company in the region, I was wondering what are the biggest challenges you face when talking to your customers about data? Because AI is the next level, but in order to, let's say, achieve something with your customers, there's also an educational part that needs to be part of the conversation. So that's my question.
Well, I would have 2 points to answer that. One is related purely to AI, which I mentioned in the presentation, that sometimes the customer doesn't know what they want to achieve, or they want to achieve everything and they are not focused. So it's you know, they're jumping from topic to topic. You say, okay, we can do this, we can solve this, but I want this as well, and I want, you know, and it's, you really have to narrow it down and structure. But the other one, which is universal, is not AI related only with many customers, it's related to IT industry overall, yes, is the notion which is today and will not change in the future is well, these guys are smart, but I have smart people, or I can get smart people, so I can do it myself. Yes? And insourcing versus outsourcing with the customer, especially bigger customers, is a huge challenge, yes? Management challenge for everybody, the customers as well. Because sometimes insourcing is better, and it's better for them to do it internally, but sometimes it's a very dangerous path where they are tempted and they are the hostages of their internal team who keep on investing into a certain direction and they don't know how to stop it. Yes, usually they stop it with a loss which is being hidden somewhere in the big, huge P&L. Yes, but that's a big challenge. Yes, so you have to find again in the bigger organizations or in any organization, you have to find a partner, a manager who really understands this temptation, understands the objective, the focus, and knows, even though it seems a bit more expensive doing it outside that with your own team, probably the effectiveness and speed and delivery will be much better and quicker, yes? And the focus. Did I answer your question, roughly?
Yes, thank you.
Another one? Here?
Hi. What are the industries that are most ready for AI implications? I'm actually referring to this slide where you have some measurable results.
Yes,
and maybe what are the industries that are next in the line for AI applications?
Well, I would say everybody who stores data and has scale is there to use AI, yes? So if the business is small, they can use AI, but some ready product to apply to put on top, not tailor-made for their business because they can never pay for it, yes? But for sure, big enterprises, I mean, banks is a good example. They have huge customer base, a lot of data related to this customer. But for sure, the biggest, in my opinion, in the future will be all the consumer spending merchant type of business, yes, mass business, yes. So wherever we do shopping, we buy to follow the patterns, to follow how we pay, how quickly we do, how we act, yes. This will be growing with e-commerce, and the share of this in e-commerce and in trade, e-trade, will grow immensely, yes? But I don't think there's an industry that can be taken out from logistics, yes? I was just speaking yesterday with my colleagues about one friendly company who is using the image recognition to see the stocking, the stock in the small merchants, whether there's enough bottles of Coca-Cola and different products of Pepsi or Cola or whatever other producer. And the simple sales guy, by a picture, gets the quality of the stocking, is it stocked well enough or not, or they can even ask the merchant to send this picture and to have a automatic judgment on the stocking of the place, yes? So, you know, very practical, very monetizable, very, you know, so there's no place where you can avoid it, but the question of monetization is the key question, yes? Probably everywhere, in some places, people will have to think more, take more time how to monetize it. But I would say the merchant business, the commerce business is the one that will be utilizing it the most, yes? Please, any others?
Let's see, or I can ask, how much do you need? You said you didn't come from tech. How much do you need to know, I mean, to learn about the data in order to keep running the company?
About data overall, I mean, yeah, data.
How deep has your knowledge has to be in order to keep on talking with all these tech guys? I mean, all these tech guys.
Yes. Deep enough? I don't have a good answer to this question because I would say it's not big enough today. Yes, I would like for it to be better than I have. Yes, so I don't have an answer. Am I good? Because I'm not good enough for that. Yes, still, and I'm trying to make it better and better. But okay, if you try to understand, if you try to get the sense of what is being done, then you're there. You're there. And what very often happens, talking to tech guys, they're doing very sophisticated things, but they don't know why and where and what is the purpose. They know it's you know, they know how to fix a thing, yes? They know how to build a chair, but they don't know who will be using it, and they don't really care.
So you want to say that we shouldn't get too impressed by data and by technology, because we might forget why we started using it.
Well, we are entering some live topics. I think, my personal impression, my personal dogma is to be impressed with everything, yes? That's why I travel, I talk to people, I'm fascinated by every person, every topic, everything, and I'm fascinated by data. But yes, correct. On top of what I just said, I think we cannot be consummated by data. We have to have our own independent thoughts, where we want to get our objectives, which we should be in an agile mode, modifying all the time, using the data. We can change our opinion. We are not animals, yes? We can say we change this based on data we have, but we should have our opinions, our directions, our thoughts and objectives, not driven purely from data, but from ourselves inside, and then keep on modifying them based on data.
Yes, and if we don't have any more questions, I will have another one. Since we have Piotr here, maybe it's a good chance to ask him for advice on working online, hybrid, or office. What would you say, what would you recommend to someone who's like between 20 and 30?
I'll tell you what we are doing now. We have this issue as a company internationally, how to enter the post-COVID era, yes? And we are discussing it a lot. And what are my observations? And there is no one single observation. First of all, we ask the team leaders, small teams, for their recommendation how they want to work with their team, and for them to take the responsibility for the way they will work. We will for sure enforce where it's possible, because if somebody works in a different country remotely, it's not possible, some regular physical meetings. Recommended will be a short once per week, and minimum will be once per month, yes? To have a physical, that will be a minimum, yes? And vice versa, for those maniacs still who say everybody has to be in the office, we'll recommend give one day off a week to work remotely for the team, yes? So this is the direction we are following, but we will not imply any strict rules. So we will allow team by team to have independence. And let me give you an example. I had a very nice discussion with two leaders of teams of about 30 people, each of them, of mobile programmers in Croatia, in Zagreb, yes? And they are working exactly for different customers, but exactly in the same technologies. They're identical. The only difference is one is a bit younger, one is a bit older. Difference probably on average of 7-8 years. One with families, one still bachelors, majority of them, yes? And we were chatting together, and the older guy says, hey, Piotr, we're back in the office. Everybody's tired of this remote work, and we are so much enjoying it. We are having fun, yes? Most of the time in the office. And the younger one, we are all remote, and it's excellent. And both says their team are motivated, they're great, and they were sitting next to each other, and it was like black and white. So I don't think there will be a simple rule, and agility and flexibility will be needed, but looking down for more senior managers, what's happening in the teams, and checking, haven't they gone too far in discipline, or vice versa in pure remote? Because if you work pure remote, what's keeping you together in a team, in a company? How do you create a culture? And how easy that is. I work remotely for these guys, but I can work remotely for other guys. What's stopping you from doing that?
An interesting project.
Very interesting.
Thank you. This was Piotr Jelenski.
Thank you very much.
This is for you. Yeah. Yeah, this was Piotr Jelenski. Thank you.